Dr. Michelle Hernandez. I grew up in Northern California. I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis when I was 3 years old. That's a disease that is progressive and degenerative. It attacks your joints and ultimately is debilitating. So I was able to walk until I was about 10-ish, and then I ended up in a wheelchair around 12. So consequently of having the disease, there's a lot of chronic pain and surgeries. So I grew up pretty much at Children's Hospital at Stanford and started having surgeries when I was 12. And by the time I was 21, I'd had 45 surgeries.
My name's Jim Worley, and I'm Michelle's stepdad. And I got to know Michelle when she was about 8 years old when I met her mother. And throughout her childhood, after I got to know her and before even I got to know her, she went through multiple surgeries related to this arthritis.
Started with hamstring releases, 2 knee replacements, 2 hip replacements, a rod in my back, an amputation, a broken neck, a jaw replacement. They took my ribs and replaced my jaw.
She went through an awful lot as a young girl, and I've watched her grow through all of that and overcome those obstacles. And there was kind of a moment there where she didn't let that disease define anything about her, and she took on challenges, educationally and everything else, and just succeeded wildly in spite of that. And of course, all of us got educated along the way.
I went to college, got an undergraduate degree in psychology, got a second undergraduate degree in criminal justice administration, went to graduate school, got a master's in counseling psychology, and then in 2011 received my doctorate in clinical psychology, PhD. And since have become an advocate and a role model for disabled women all around the world, going to DC, testifying at Capitol Hill, speaking at different universities, just got back from Miami, and I see clients. I specialize in disability, PTSD, sexual abuse, and domestic violence. Being in this field wasn't easy, even in psychology, where you'd think that disability would be something people talk about, people don't. And there's not a class you take in graduate school to learn about disability. I actually am the person that teaches those classes now. And so it was really hard for me to get an internship. I applied to 22 places and I got 3 interviews. 2 of them weren't accessible. My boss, Dr. Mills, is actually the one that gave me a chance, took a chance on me, and I've been here 4 years. And I came to the interview and I didn't get accepted here. I had to come back for a second interview. And I don't exactly know why she took a chance on me, but it's made me a better person, a really good clinician, and just it's helped me advocate for myself and help other people advocate for themselves. And she cares about me and she sticks up for me, and I can go out in the world and make a difference because I know when I come back that she's here, and there's always a place for me here. So I appreciate her for that, because I wouldn't be the person I am today if she didn't take that chance. So.
Hi, my name is Dr. Elizabeth Milnes. I'm the Director of Psychological Services Center in downtown Oakland. I met Michelle several years ago, I don't remember how many, when she interviewed to be an intern at Psychological Services Center. And when she came in for an interview, she sat through the whole interview and she didn't say one word. So we didn't take her. And people from the graduate program where she goes to school called me and said, "Oh, you have to give her a chance." And I said, "She didn't say anything. How can I take someone who doesn't talk?" So they asked me to interview her again, and she came in for an interview and was quite delightful and talked and told us why she hadn't talked, because she had had dental surgery before the first interview and her mouth hurt, but she didn't tell any of us because she was so quiet and so shy and so reticent. And so that's how we met several years ago, and I was her supervisor for 4 years. And I have seen her go from quiet, unassuming, sit in the back Michelle to the person who's taking charge and now traveling around the country giving talks. So I think that whole piece of how capable disabled people actually are is really one of the things that Michelle shows me every day. Michelle is an inspiration. Just the growth I've seen in her and what she goes through. People don't know that she's in pain, and she's in chronic, constant pain, and it doesn't stop her. She is determined, she is present, she is always willing, she is interested, she's always learning. And you can think you're having a bad day, and here comes Michelle, and it's taken her 2 hours to get here because she has to have someone help her, or it's raining and she doesn't have the ability to put the umbrella up herself, and you kind of go, you know what, my life is really good because Michelle's life is fabulous, and she makes it that way. So to me, she's an inspiration that you can do what you set out to do if you're willing to put the work into it, and she puts the work into it.
I always wanted to follow, I wanted somebody to be my role model. I just wanted to follow somebody. I never wanted to be the pioneer, the advocate, the one doing it. And I fought that for a good decade before I just surrendered to the fact that if my life, living my life helps somebody else, then that's all that matters. But a lot of people say it's not safe to take risks, but if you don't take a risk, then you're never going to find out. And most of my life, I didn't take any risks. But now, I don't mind. I don't mind taking risks. So about, I say it was maybe 5 years ago. One of my friends who's a doctor started asking me to be a guest speaker in her class and talk about disability, and I didn't really have a script, and I didn't have anything to say, but this friend, she knew a whole bunch of stories about my life, because everywhere I go there's usually a story or something funny that happens to me. So she would just ask me to go to the front of the class, and she'd say, tell this story, and I'd tell the story, and people would laugh. And I didn't really think I was doing anything of value, but at the end of every class, she would ask people for feedback, and people would say, you're amazing. I can't believe some of the stuff you go through. And then some people started crying, and they told me that I touched them, and some people had disabilities that weren't apparent, so I didn't realize that people were suffering with different ailments. And so I think probably one of the proudest moments I had when some lady said that she was dying of multiple sclerosis, and she said after listening to me that she could fight, that she would make the best out of the rest of her life. And that was pretty nice. But I think now I know I'm making a difference because I consciously choose to. And advocating for my clients and advocating for myself is a lot of work, but it's rewarding. And having a disability can be very limiting. It doesn't make it a negative. It means you have to be creative and adjust your life around accommodating your disability. But if the rest of the world gets to go out there and do whatever they want, then just because you have a disability doesn't mean that you can't. So don't assume that because somebody has a disability that they're not, that they're not human. Because we're all human, and we all deserve to be respected and validated and acknowledged for who we are. I feel really strongly about that. I don't have a lot of free time. I'm always looking for jobs, new contracts, and I'm just trying to be completely independent and live my life as full as I possibly can and help along the way. I do believe that giving of yourself is the best medicine, because you never know who's watching you, who you're going to inspire, or when you're going to make a difference. I'm always shocked when people tell me I make a difference, but I consciously choose every day to get up, be positive, and be nice, be kind to people. My mom, I would say, was my biggest role model because she was strong and she believed in me and she thought I could do anything. She always told me there's nothing that you could ever set your mind to that you can't do. So in a weird way, she inspired me and motivated me to be better, to be a better person, to be a kind person, to not hate, to be humble. She always taught me to be really humble and just to appreciate life for the time that you have here, because you don't know when you're not going to be here. So I appreciate and I'm very grateful for good people in my life. And I took a class when I was in graduate school. I think I was getting my master's. And it was a class on death and dying, and it said, if you had to write on your tombstone, what would it say? And a phrase that I came up with was, cherish the beauty within us all. Because there's beauty within us all, just that people don't take time to notice it, or to make a difference, or to even care. I think the beauty of doing this work and being a doctor and seeing different people and living in the Bay Area is that, yeah, there's a lot of people that are seriously mentally ill, but that doesn't mean that they don't have beauty inside them, disabled or not. We're all beautiful because we're all human beings. So just don't take your life for granted. Don't take your body for granted, and just cherish the beauty within us all.